appear in front of you again this year. Thanks. My brother and I went to school at PCPS. My son and daughter go to school here now. Pearson is in grade 2 and Meredith is in senior kindergarten. This year, like every year, we wear a poppy for 11 days. And on the 11th of November, we gather in communities across the country to commemorate the anniversary of the end of the First World War on the 11th of November 1918. And remember the sacrifice of over 100,000 Canadians who died in uniform serving in wars and conflict zones around the world. One of those, one of the 158 military members to die in Afghanistan, was Corporal Patrick Lormand, who we especially commemorate today. There's 3 words and 3 ideas. Good morning. That I'd ask us to focus on today. And those are service, sacrifice, and gratitude. Those are words that you hear every Remembrance Day. You hear them very frequently in speeches. But I'd like to give some particular meaning to those and put them in the context of Corporal Lormand's life. Albert Einstein said, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." William Blake said, "The most sublime act is to set another before you." Those are excellent definitions of service. Service comes in many, many forms. Around you today are teachers who live a life of service dedicated to generations of students and preparing them for the world once they leave school. Some service comes with an acceptance of a level of risk and to take on some of the burdens and dangers and challenges on behalf of the rest of us. Many of you are related or know people that are in the local fire department, and there are a small group of courageous men and women who take time to train extremely hard and are prepared at a moment's notice to drop what they're doing and respond to emergencies in our community. The military is another community, a very small community in this country that accepts a very high level of risk on behalf of the rest of us. There are fewer than 60,000 members of the Canadian Armed Forces. Within that, there are approximately 20,000 in the regular force Army, about 24,000 in the Army Reserve. A smaller community within that is the Infantry Corps. That is the corps that Corporal Lormand chose to join. It is a small club that faces an extraordinary level of risk in mission after mission. Corporal Lormand felt a calling to join that club and take on a great deal of the danger and risk involved in the missions that the military is tasked to undertake. Patrick grew up not far from here in Chute Blondo. He was born February 11th, 1988. He went to school down the road here at St. Jude's and high school in Hawkesbury. He played soccer as a boy in the fields behind this school. He enlisted in the Army Reserves in 2004, serving for 2 years in 33 Brigade in Ottawa. Patrick transferred to the regular force in 2006 as an infantryman, joining the famous Royal 22nd Regiment, the Vendus, a Canadian Forces based off Cartier, and was subsequently posted to the 3rd Battalion and trained as a driver for light armored vehicles or LAVs. Corporal Lormand deployed as part of the Rotation 7 Vendu Battle Group in March of 2009. This was the 8th consecutive battle group deployed to Kandahar since 2006. The tour was due to end in November 2009 after 7 months. It was Patrick's first overseas deployment. On September 13th, 2009, Corporal Lormand was killed at age 21 when a roadside bomb detonated near his light armored vehicle on a dusty road in Panjwai district, approximately 10 kilometers from Kandahar City. 4 of his fellow soldiers were injured in the same blast. General Vance, then the commander of Task Force Kandahar, now our Chief of Defense Staff, describes Corporal Lormand with the following words. Kirkpatrick Lormand, known as Lorm to his friends, was a calm and determined soldier who was well liked for his good sense of humor, his efforts at raising the morale of a section and platoon. Lormand was a good soul who tried every day to do the right thing and saw the results of his efforts, a chance to succeed on a wider scale on behalf of Canadians and Afghans alike. Aside from acknowledging Corporal Lormand, his life and his sacrifice, I'd like to put it in context. 2009 was known as the deadliest year in Afghanistan. It was a very deadly year for Afghans, for Afghan security forces, and for coalition military, including Canadians. Corporal Lormand was one of 15 Canadian military personnel who died in 2009. There are specific reasons why 2009 was extraordinarily dangerous. Corporal Lormand's battle group was deployed to carry out a new strategy in southern Afghanistan. They pushed out from Kandahar city, a city of about 500,000 people, into the surrounding villages, particularly south and west of Kandahar city. Small villages that are not much different than many of the small villages around here, Vankleek, Lormand, Blondo. They pushed into those villages, pushed the Taliban out, and then secured those villages so that people could carry out their lives in relative safety. Schools could open, farms could operate, businesses could run, the rule of law could return. Police were able to go about and do their important work in returning the rule of law. There are specific things that the Taliban was particularly aggressive in trying to prevent. One was the opening of schools and allowing girls in particular to go to school. Prior to 2006, before Canadian forces deployed to southern Afghanistan, one of the top targets in southern Afghanistan were teachers. Every effort was used to try and prevent a secular education, a public education, from being available. The other thing that was different about 2009 was that it was the year of the first open, free presidential elections in Afghan history. And every effort was made by the Taliban to prevent the population from being able to exercise the right to vote. It was in that context that Corporal Lormand found himself patrolling on a regular basis in and around a small village called Pangway in Afghanistan. Corporal Lormand was one member in a long chain of effort that contributed significantly to some significant accomplishments by Canada in Afghanistan. The opening of over 6,000 schools, over 3 million children being able to get an education across Afghanistan, hundreds of thousands in Kandahar province, the eradication of polio, the return of rule of law, huge building efforts for roads, bridges, wells, and schools across southern Afghanistan. I'd like to invite Mr. Lormand to come on stage. This is the regimental plaque for the Royal 22nd Regiment. When you join a regiment, you are joining a second family. You have a responsibility to live up to the ideals of that family, and the Van Duys have a very storied history. They've made huge contributions in some of the most dangerous missions that the Canadian forces have faced. And Corporal Lormand served in a particularly dangerous chapter for that regiment. This cap badge represents that regimental family. And Mr. Lormand is presenting this to the school to help us in our efforts in keeping the memory of Corporal Lormand alive.
We are very honored to be entrusted with the safekeeping of Corporal Lormand's regimental crest. Major Fraser will tell us a bit about the significance of this crest, and the members of our student council and students will receive the crest from Patrick's father, Monsieur Jacques Lormand.